Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Great Opportunities Inside Difficulties podcast. This is Rue Stewart. Actually, this is show number 7, and I'm really excited today. I got a college friend here that I got in touch with after about 29 years, and he was sharing with me some great challenges he went through, and I thought he would really benefit everybody from having a chance to share today. So, hey, Chris, great to have you here, man. Let us all know a little more about you. What's going on?
Absolutely. So first of all, Rue, it's great to reconnect with you. Life has a way of rushing forward as it did, and I'm so glad we got back together and actually found you kind of through your recording of these podcasts, which I think is pretty neat if you think about it. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm in the talent business, the staffing business. I come from families of generations. I'm fourth generation entrepreneur. And, I have a mid-sized company, pretty good size. I've been my own boss for 21 years this month. In fact, August 6th would be my, an unofficial beginning of being an entrepreneur, though I worked in family businesses prior to that. And, the title of your podcast, Great Opportunities Inside Difficulties. I'm probably not unique, Rue, to have been a small business owner that had some challenges along the way. But
Right.
what I think is so interesting about them is so many people think, you're a success today, or I must be successful because I've had this business so long. But I guess there's something to be learned about the path along the way.
Right.
And I always like to say I'm an overnight success, 20 years in the making.
That's right. Everyone wants to be a success with a snap of their fingers with a microwave, but it doesn't work that way, does it?
Just take that pill and you're successful, Rue. Just all of a sudden you're good. No, I think there's a lesson in that sometimes you just got to put in good operating days. You've just got to always try to just do the right thing or do good. And I think we always leave things a little bit better than the day before. So many people think like strategy is some big business plan or something when I really just think it's doing a lot of little things well each day, and they add up. They turn into a pretty big pile of stuff. So, um,
Do you have any specific, actually, I've been a business owner for 11 years, and what you're saying is the truth. I'm still working on getting where I know that a better place. But you were sharing with me some really difficult times in this journey. I think you were sharing some spots with me that really were trying. Can you
yeah,
talk about
yeah.
those and maybe some of the decisions that you made and maybe what you feel is the great benefits that you feel from having had to walk through that?
I'd love to, because I think everybody wants to figure out how to close their personal and professional gap, and hopefully you can do it by hearing how other people overcame. And so let me rewind 21 years ago. So I started this business. I had saved for 5 or 6 years to start the business, putting away every dollar I could because you start a business, typically you don't earn a salary. Um, and so what was so interesting is I back then, today you're an entrepreneur, you really don't even need space, right? You just need social media. Your phone can be over the internet, your website. It's all electronic. But back in the day, you had to buy a phone system that got mounted on the wall. You needed furniture to sit at. You had to get a lease. There were these physical barriers to becoming your own boss. And I know they exist today, but it's just very different. Some of that stuff you can turn on in an afternoon, have a phone number and a website, and all of a sudden you're in business by the end of your first day. But when I started the business, a couple quick things. My first full-time employee started at 8:35 the morning of 9/11.
Man.
So, hey, it was a pretty rough day for the country. Obviously, it's much bigger than me. But here's this guy that had just gambled his whole life. I don't even know if it's gamble, but you know what I mean. You're getting
Right.
ready to start. You get your sign on the door. You got your first server, your first phone system, your first couple of desks. And at 8:45, the world changed for all of us. And I think what was so challenging is I was so ready to do it. And then it kind of became impolite to sell things. It was not American. It was not patriotic at the time to really talk about new ideas or to solve problems. So I had squirreled away this money to get going, and really we just all it did was really reset us for 4 or 5 months. It was really, you know, maybe 2002 before people started to do business again. And there's all kinds of basic challenges. But so in my first 3 weeks, it culminated with 9/11, which was obviously a difficult thing. But I had a ceiling collapse. I just put my server on the wall, my phone system in, furniture, and the air conditioning unit was above my receptionist's desk. Now, there's bad flood and it collapsed through the ceiling. Luckily, no one was there,
Man.
but all my furniture got replaced. And then the server that got damaged, the UPS leaned it against my door when I wasn't there and it got stolen. So this was my first 3 weeks. And I just thought, wow, it's kind of funny because it's not maybe what you think I'm going to say. I was so excited about things being my problems and not like fixing it for another leader, another owner. And I was just really glad that it all happened then because I didn't have customers. I barely had employees. But it taught me a lesson that you really are only done when you decide you're done,
That's
if that
right.
makes any sense. You got to keep going, right? When it gets
Right.
tough, walk through the hell. Um, but that was early stage. And I think I was young. I was 30 years old, Rue. I had the benefits of time, or so I thought I had time. I had boundless energy. And I just thought every hour I worked was like equity in my company. So I didn't even think twice, like really about that. I would say probably my greater entrepreneurial challenge was, hopefully your audience is not all newer career folks, but the recession of '08 and '09, I don't know what you were doing, Rube, but I was 8 years into my business. I was winning awards. I was about 72 employees in my business. I was, excuse the expression, but I think I thought my shit didn't stink anymore. I was like, I thought I had made it, it was big time. And then that recession roared, and I had grown by taking on debt. I was using a credit line to fuel growth. Customers would be billed, but they wouldn't, pay me right away. So I built up this very large debt in the business. And they always say that debt's fine when you're growing. You should use it as a tool. But during a downturn, that same amount of debt that you could afford one day all of a sudden becomes a burden to the business. And then, that recession really hurt me. And I ended up needing to downsize, and I went down to 12 employees. Now I'm 8 or 9 years in, and back to that point of you're only done when you decide that you're done. All of a sudden, I was a president of a business, but it was a shell of what it was. A lot of people left me because, at the time, I don't think we all understood that maybe I had nothing to do with it, that it was the time around us, that it was external factors. Sure, I could have done things differently and better to get us ready, but all these employees that I'd worked with for years, just I couldn't protect them. I couldn't keep them. So they left, and I'm taking the trash out again. I'm paying the bills again. Frankly, I'm answering the phone again. And it was really humbling. But the silver lining is it got so slow that I could work out at 5 o'clock every day. And I decided I was going to run my own first half marathon. And, whether your audience can see me as I'm sitting in this chair, I would definitely be in the Clydesdale division. I'm not a little man. And that was a big deal. So to get in shape and to have dinner with my family who, at that point were, maybe 8 and 10, I'd say at that point, or 9 and 12. They're in their mid 20s today, but they were still in the house and around and relevant. So there was all these hidden things, but I remember needing to decide, the business was an $8 million business and it dropped below $1 million, Rue. And it's not
Man.
a high margin business, so don't be impressed by the millions. It's staffing business, kind of the nature of the beast. And I just remember thinking, wow, this major crisis for me got me healthy. It made me stop and realize just so much around what what was really important to me. I had sacrificed everything to get this business to this size, and it was all gone in 3 to 6 months. And I think that just I think it was a very important lesson to realize that things are temporary, that time is finite, and that there are no guarantees. And I think we all grow up, Ruth, thinking about the American dream. Work hard, and everything's going to work out to your advantage. You're just going to make it. And sometimes life just isn't fair. And I think I learned that lesson. What's really interesting, and this is sort of one long great opportunity inside a difficulty, is it got really tough. I needed to borrow money. I had to borrow it from my father. I did it the wrong way. I asked at the last minute when I was desperate. I didn't tell my wife about it because I was so embarrassed. Or I think maybe I thought, like, maybe even worse, that I wanted to insulate her from it, and it was none of her business. I was not going to make her deal with this. But it became this sort of, white lie. And, my dad finally figured out that Kim, my wife, didn't know, and they talked. And so then here I am with a struggling business, and I damaged the most two important relationships of my whole life. And I created this major trust issue. And I'm spilling my beans here for you. But it was, so here it is. My business isn't doing well. And then I've really ruined the only thing that really mattered, which was my support network. So I dug in, and it took me many, many years. And I guess maybe the interesting thing about all of this is that obviously we're coming off of a few years of a very strange time with pandemic.
Right.
And what really was so interesting to me is when we went into this pandemic, Rue, I'd paid down all my debt. I had worked to repair these relationships. And I had spent 7 or 8 years really getting the business ready for the next recession, because I had, it's like my hair was on fire. I was determined to never do it that way again. So I was lowering the cost of the business. I made sure I had a credit line. I always knew what I would do if there was if there was a business downturn. What would I do to lower costs? I was determined never to take on debt like that again. And Rue, the debt I was taking on, it was all salary. I had all these employees, and I thought my job was to keep them, right? I'm going to keep them. So I would just pay them with nothing to do. And in the end, they left anyway. And it was such a valuable lesson that I was trying to be a stoic and just take it on the chin. But frankly, it took me 10 years to pay back the money. So the greatest opportunity is failure and what doesn't kill you. And I just dug in hard, and I really learned to run a business. And so without that '08 recession, there's no way I would be where I am today. Nowhere close. And I have a successful business today. I run it differently. Pandemics and recessions, although concerning, don't worry me, because I learned so many damn lessons from that experience. I'm not going to say, you can almost picture me like waiting for the next one excitedly. It's not quite like that. I'm not quite nuts, but I certainly feel like I'm better positioned and I know what to do. But I think a lot of small business people, like, the business takes over your life. You stop having fun. The fears and anxieties and challenges of being your own boss. I mean, it was probably 12 years in, Rue, before I could sleep on Sunday nights trying to think about like how I was going to fund payroll that Friday. So I'll pause. You've been kind to let me lay some things out. I really do care and hope this is what you were hoping to hear discussed. You were very vulnerable in yours, and I felt like I owed you that.
Man, thanks, Chris. This is what this is all about. And sounds like to me you were vulnerable here, and not all about
Yes.
vulnerability, but I had a reset in my life. You know, I had priorities. I got sideways. I had gotten married and had all these responsibilities, and I really it went sideways. But I had a reset. It sounds like you had a reset with just with some challenges, and I every day I make it a priority to exercise. I make it a priority to, for me, it works a lot to pray, and I also make it a priority. I do a bunch of other self-care stuff like 12-step stuff. It's me, it's my life, but it works. And I made that a priority because before I got sideways, and I really appreciate you sharing about your business and you know, just that you were really you know, I guess you were trying to take care of these other people, but you had built it up so big. And then, yeah, man, we learned so much. And I'm gonna say one more thing. I'd love to hear a little more from you. You really brought out something to me that's the truth, and I say it all the time. I guess it's this thought that you never really. I hate the word lose, but you've never really lost until you stop trying. And I just thought I just heard that in your story where you were saying that you know, you kept trying, and you realize that that is maybe why you're where you're at today because you did not stop. You use, you know, you reset and you use some of these challenges, and now you worked on your business more, and now you have something that is a lot more peaceful and it's working better. So
You are right about the peaceful thing. So just tying it to what I think you've shared, until what's that notion that you can't pour from an empty cup? You ever hear that?
I've
Like you
heard that.
can't. So when I hear you taking care of yourself, doing 12 steps, doing things that are right for you, to get my business successful the first time before the first recession, I sacrificed everything. I worked every day, Christmas, Easter, and I was proud of it. And I was a nut job. Like, why would I do all that? I gained 40 pounds. I didn't recognize myself in pictures and videos. And, I'm not sure why I did it, but there was such a fear of failure for my family. And like I had to make it work. But what I learned is, you can work really hard, but if you don't work smart, it doesn't really matter. So the first time I had success, I worked hard and not smart. The other things I would say is not only did I learn how to run a business through that, but I really would propose, if all you ever know is success, and I know some people that are like that, everything they touch, they have the Midas touch or something,
Right.
they're just, I really learned through adversity. And I prefer it that way today. I really do, because they're really important lessons learned that I think my advantage today, Rue, is I may be the most confident, humble person in the room. Like I have been through, I don't know what's a better version of the battles, because I don't, I had been through such adversity that the day to day is rewarding to me because it's not as hard as the tough stuff.
That's
And if you
right.
did, so I had to learn, I had to grow, I had to do hard stuff. I had to eat the bullfrog, like they say, do the really hard thing every day. So normal days are great, you know? Um, and I think it certainly changed my perspective. Today, I realize that you can't drink from an empty cup. I'm in my 50s. I have no choice but to take care of myself. I'm worthless without 7.5 hours sleep. If I don't do my workout regimen, I can't touch my, so, and, there's all kinds of things like morning routines and meditation and journaling. And, I'm, what's really important to me is I try every day to reflect on little things that give me joy. Maybe it's the smile of the dog or the sunset or a flower, or quite frankly, Rue, stuff that you and I, when we were in college, we would never think about and talk about, right? Because we didn't know who we were. And maybe that's the key thing, is if everybody can go through some adversity, you may actually begin to identify who you are. And how powerful is that?
Come on, man. That's a even, you know, we're not talking about that, but every day brings stuff, you know what I'm saying? Just because you might feel more peaceful and have a successful business, and I have a lot of things that people would look at and be like, wow, you know, I walk through stuff all the time, but I'm not pulling that away from my life because I like what you're saying. It's just a really good feeling to have experiences in life and really to be able to show up for life and walk through stuff, you know? when
I
we were,
wouldn't want it any other way, Rue. Like, I think they were blessings.
that's right, man. And yeah, we had fun when we were 19, but in all honesty, I wouldn't go back there if I had to, because you know why? It was awful fun, and we had a good. I mean, that we were really hanging out. It was awful fun, but I don't know if things would turn out as good as they have. And in all honesty, I like my life right now, even with the challenges I have. I wouldn't want to go back. What do you think about that thought?
Well, I'm going to try and be funny for a second. I would love to have my 19-year-old body and not feel the way I do when I wake up today. So, in some ways, that would be kind of cool. But I agree with you because, like, I don't think we were unique, Rue. And when we were in college together, I don't think we knew who the heck we were. I think we were exploring the world, trying to determine it. Um, and I think it was probably an important path on it, right? Like, and I think some of the dumbest things I ever did were in college, but that doesn't make you and I unique. I get like
Right.
that dumb stuff, but there is no way I would want to go back. No way. I'd much rather be where we are, having experienced what we've experienced, than to be starting over, needing to learn all those lessons over again.
That's right. Hey, I want to touch on one more thing too. I heard the reset personally. You know what I'm saying? You gain weight, priorities got out of hand, and you really reset personally. But it sounds to me like you reset your business too. And how did you get to a place? It's a ever going for me learning curve. I mean, I love having a business, but you know, it is a challenge. But I really appreciate the challenge. But we were talking about this reset that you had. What did you do differently in your business? How did you learn that information and how did you apply it? How did you reset your business?
Rue, the first thing, and I know we're kind of repeating themes, but I think that'll play well in listening to this. I had to decide that I didn't know the answer. And I can't tell you how important that first decision was, because I think the first generation, the first 8 years I ran the business, I think I thought I knew the answers. I leveraged my experiences and my successes. So I had to admit I didn't know. So I had to be willing to learn again. So I had a couple different journeys, I would say. I never was afraid of hard work, and I never was afraid of learning. So I would do things like set a goal where I would not eat a breakfast or lunch alone. I was going to network every day with somebody. So believe it or not, I made like 270 business days in a row, meeting different and new people. It was like I always like a game or a street guy, and ironically, the workout side of me. I walked 5 miles a day for a year and a half, and worked out. So I always had to make it a game of like doing these things that were interesting. But what I would say, there's a couple of things. I needed to get a side hustle, believe it or not, to keep my business going. I had to find a way to make money myself. And I was asked to be to run a CEO group with other CEOs, small business, and I was asked to facilitate it, and I was paid a small stipend to do so. And this CEO group was like a forum, and I think so. That's one of the first things is like I got into a forum environment where I could learn from folks that were my peer group versus my employees. But I had the honest benefit that I was given the opportunity to maybe work for 6 months or a year for free to learn to facilitate it. And then I learned the content behind this forum. And I'm a big Vern Harnish fan. He has books called Mastering the Rockefeller Habit or Scaling 2.0. And there's just a lot of content for how to deal with the daily situations that entrepreneurs have. How do I scale my business? What's my strategy? How do I execute better? How do I make money? How do I handle cash flow? How do I handle people issues? So I really studied it, and that helped me a ton. And I'm still a small business coach. I've
Really?
been blessed to have placers grow a lot. So I coach a handful of friends and businesses that I've coached for a long time. I'd love to get back to doing more of it. But at the peak, I had the benefit of coaching 10, 11, 12 other businesses. And what was so cool about it is they would have a problem. And I would go back and look at my business. And sure enough, I had the same problem. So I'd fix it. Or maybe more likely, I had just fixed it and it was easy for me to help them. So I think I've been lucky in that I've never stopped learning. And I had a chance to get certified or learn this content. Probably the other thing is, I don't know if people can see it from the video, but I'm an avid reader. I probably read a book a week,
Oh, really?
and it's business. Oh, absolutely. It's definitely a hobby or something I get joy from. And maybe the best advice I would give anybody is read the Wall Street Journal. I read it every day, cover to cover, before I start my day, and I give it to new employees too. And I every word I don't know, I look up, and eventually what's going on in the world, and so I
I
think just caring about knowledge, um, and then finally I've been blessed to be in an entrepreneurial family. My father is 78. He is a serial entrepreneur, and I got good role models. So if I really get stuck, he's probably been there before, and I don't leverage him as much as I used to in the early years. But we have an audio book that we're getting ready to load up on Audible, hopefully this week. I'd like to say within a month, my
Oh,
book
really?
Opposite the yeah, within a month, I'm saying I think Opposite the Crowd will be available.
What's it
Uh,
about? It's called Opposite the Crowd. Explain it.
yeah,
Talk about
it's
that a
called
little bit.
Opposite. It's called Opposite the Crowd, and I recorded over a year and a half my father's operating philosophies on life and business. So one chapter is on helping people figure out their personal culture, who they are. We call it their culture of one. There's a great chapter on leadership and how to become a leader. There's one on sales. There's one on change, how to leverage change in your life. You get the idea. It's 12 chapters. Each one stands alone. And this content has been my success story. I may be his greatest pupil, but I finally got, it's 14 hours. We finally got my pop to record it, and I DJ it like you're DJing right now. And it's my whole goal was for people to have the life they want. They got to know who they are,
Right.
and it's content to help people have the life they want, personally and professionally. So it's definitely a self-help book. It's a different self-help book. It's either going to sell 10 million copies or collect a lot of dust.
But it sounds to me it was so rewarding to do it. You had a chance to bond with your dad, and also you had a chance to really help share stuff from your heart to help people. How long did it take you to do that?
So we're into the 18-month timeline now. Um, and it's like kind of what we're talking about. I had to learn to record it and edit it and, package it. And we're working with vendors and found some suppliers to help us. And improving the sound quality was one thing, it was really a big thing. So we worked with a great studio to help us get the lawnmower out of the back or the barking dog out, that kind of stuff. And we use some transcription software to we're going to do a paper or ebook or a paper copy of the book, and that's being edited by an editor now just for readability. But it's sort of like something that once we got the content, it became, how do we get this content out there? And like, so if you've got a lot of listeners, I'm kind of stuck because I don't even have a place I'm sending people just yet to get an early copy. um
We're gonna
we're
stay in
just
touch. We're gonna stay in
Yeah,
touch, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this out there to everybody, and,
fantastic.
yeah.
Well, for right now, I have a website in development for just my website, but it's not up yet. Right now, if anybody wants to reach me, it's just chris@myplacers.com. and I'll get you on a spreadsheet. But in the coming weeks, we'll get more organized where people can go to a place and just say, hey, I'd like an early copy of the book, kind of thing.
Yeah, just for everybody to have clarity. I'm actually going to write it down myself. We're going to stay in touch, and we lost touch for 29 years, but that's over. So,
Yes,
give us everybody some contact, some name for the name of the book again, and everything.
sure, absolutely. It's called Opposite the Crowd. My father, Alan Burkhard, and myself, Chris Burkhard, are the authors. It will be on Audible and other audiobook outlets, probably by our goal. September 22nd is the Placer's brand name 50th anniversary. It's a brand name we have. I think it'll be released by then. And for right now, if anybody's interested, my email is chris@myplacers.com, myplacers.com. And I'll just do it the old fashioned way. We'll start collecting it. But in the coming weeks, the stuff that we need, like my website, chris-burkhard.com, will go live, and we'll do it some other things. But that's all. That's the entrepreneurial journey, Rue, that I think is so interesting. Is it's so hard to create good content and then get it ready for distribution. And then, like, how do you even get it out there to easily? So it's been a real labor of love, and pretty cool though. I like it. Just like I'm sure there's a wonderful learning curve for you in producing this. I
Right.
just had the greatest time figuring out all the trials and tribulations to get to this stage.
And you have a podcast too, Chris. What's the name of your podcast, and how often does that come out, and how does people get the opportunity to listen to your podcast?
Well, hopefully we can figure out how to co-brand this or do something. But my podcast name is called Outside Insights. I've got maybe 30 episodes up, but you can find that on all the big ones: Audible, Apple, Spotify, Google. It's also on the website of my company, myplacers.com, if people want to listen that way. If you don't have access, a lot of people don't actually subscribe to any of those services. So we have it on my website for free for people to listen to it if they don't belong to one of those services. And my goal is to help people close their personal and professional gap. I interview entrepreneurs and authors. And I think what I would identify with in your format, Rue, is I find that people want things for themselves and they think it's really hard to get those things for themselves. But I like to talk to people who have been through those challenges that can help make it a little easier for somebody else to take that risk.
That's right. And you've done that today, Chris. I mean, you talked from your heart. You talked about some things, and you talked about one of the most important things from in life, about knowing ourselves more, having more clarity, and also about being grateful and being humble. So I really
Well, I
appreciate you.
didn't start
Go
there. I
ahead.
didn't start there, brother. I didn't.
Neither did I, and I'm not there either. So I heard somebody say, if you a fool thinks they know a lot, and a wise person knows they're a fool. So Shakespeare said
Well,
that, but
then I think I'd like to say I'm a fool then, because that means I'm wise, I think. And
I have it right
well,
behind me, actually. It says, the fool thinks he is wise, and the wise man knows he himself to be a fool. So, from William Shakespeare. So,
is that a quote, or is that from some of his writing? Is that in?
I don't know, Chris. It's just a
It's
plaque I
been
have on
great
my
though.
wall. Yeah, I have a plaque I have on my wall in my office because it speaks to me, because I don't want to know so much, because when I do that, I really get sideways and get far from the truth. So.
Well, I've had the pleasure of listening to a couple of your podcasts, and it gave me a sense of maybe what you might like from today. Is there anything else you would like me to address for your audience?
No, Chris, you really spoke about the challenges you went through with your business, and the equal or much greater benefits. And I always close things out with asking people how things have really affected whatever, their faith, or whatever that is. It might be yoga, it might be walking, it might be some kind of spiritual belief. But I heard from you that just about, gratitude is a lot there. Has it affected your faith in any way, whatever that is, yoga, exercise, or whatever?
Well, I definitely feel that I found my spirituality. Um, I read a lot of Stoicism. I know that seems like that's about logic, but Rue, when I realized that I did not control everything, man, what ego to think you control everything, every outcome. When someone would say something I didn't like, I thought I could correct them. When outcomes didn't happen, I thought I could, manipulate them. So to understand that the only thing I really control is my mind, like everything else I'm renting, everything else I lease, and other than my mind, it was like the greatest gift. And, that's not original. I read that and then I had to decide whether I believed that. But I found peace pure and simply when I finally committed to that.
That's right. Hey, Chris, thanks so much. I really appreciate you coming on the show, and we're definitely staying in touch. And when the book that you have with this Audible book that you have, when it comes out, Opposite the Crowd, I'm going to put this on the podcast and get it out to people. So thanks so much.
Love you, Rue. Take
Love
care.
you. Take care.